So we'll start this episode off with we have a guest today. Let's go with what do you prefer me to call you during the podcast? Do you want to go by your actual name, your comic strip name, your...
Well, as you know, I changed my name from Zombie Turtle to Zero-Goblin.
Mm-hmm. You want to go by Zero-Goblin?
Yeah, you call me Goblin, call me Turtle, Zombie.
Zombie, okay. So we have Zero-Goblin here. We have been planning on doing this podcast, this episode in particular, since we were on We Don't Talk Politics. And it just, the timing always never seemed to work out. Schedules were always conflicting. When you have 4 people trying to work together to get a schedule going, it is tough. But we made it today. We got the 2 of us here.
How long has it been? A year?
At least a year. I was going to say, I think I've been doing this podcast for at least a year. So, and we were working on that and the other one as well for a long time. Yeah. So we're here today. If you are looking to see Zero-Goblin's work, you can go on to Instagram and just do a search for Zero-Goblin. I will be tagging when I share on Instagram and everywhere else, so you can connect that way as well. There'll be links to connect to him quickly. But yeah, we have been trying to do a Mandela Effect episode for a very long time. I am excited to do this one. I'm excited to get this one over because every time I research it, I feel like I'm going a little bit more crazy. There's so much stuff that pops up that I'm like, yeah, that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be. But I did want to start off by asking a few questions just about the comic and everything else. So I guess, and these are going to be, I'm not the best at interviews. I'm not the best at asking all the questions. And I won't lie, I had GPT come up with some questions for me.
That's great.
Which I hate the fact that I'm using it, but I made sure I said thank you after I was done getting the information from him. And it was so creepy because it was like, oh, you're welcome. And I'm glad. I hope the interview goes well. And I'm just like, I don't like talking to a computer like this and having responses like that where it makes me feel validated and good inside. And I'm like, this is not something I should be getting from AI. But yeah, so either way, I guess, can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started doing the comics?
Well, like you said, I'm Zero-Goblin, formerly known as Zombie Turtle. I had to change up the name and everything because there's a bunch of people I no longer talk to that still tried to contact me, like narcissistic kind of people.
Right. I get that
situation. So yeah, changed all of it. Plus, I felt like I wanted to start fresh artistically. Mm-hmm. I was doing a bunch of different stuff like horror art. I was doing commissions for beer companies, doing labels and stuff. Okay. But I want to focus more on my comics because whenever I try to start a comic or something, it gets pushed in the backside. Everything else gets done first.
Right.
So yeah, I want my main focus to be comic books. Okay. That's why I started Zero-Goblin. And my main comic character is Galactic Man, which is basically me in like a galactic superhero kind of way. Right. Mm-hmm. But it's just a way I could do like my autobiographical stuff without actually being realistic. Mm-hmm. Like I want to tell stories in my life, but do it in the lens of this character.
Okay, I gotcha.
How long have we followed each other on Instagram?
Oh, it's about the longer than we've been trying to do an episode together. So it's been a couple of years for sure.
I'd say at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I was gonna say I've been out here for 2 years, and I think that's when I started this podcast because I was just doing it by myself. And then, yeah, we've been talking through the old podcast as well. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
For like, what got you into, I guess, drawing originally? What kind of got you, and even more so, what got you into comic art as well?
Well, I grew up watching stuff like the Tim Burton Batman, the what's it called?
The
Christopher Reeve Superman, but like, what's the director's name? Can't remember.
I don't remember right now.
Well, yeah, I watched those, watched Ghostbusters, and then watched all the cartoons. So I would just kind of like, it was a combination of my parents also drawing.
Okay.
Like my mom would draw sometimes, my dad would doodle all the time.
Gotcha.
But also like there'd be action figures and stuff that my parents couldn't get me, so I would draw instead of play. You know, like I would create these stories and stuff using like Batman and stuff like that. Then I started creating my own characters as a kid.
Gotcha.
So yeah, basically just emulating my parents and whatever was on TV.
Gotcha. Now that's, yeah. I mean, that's, I think how a lot of people were influenced when cartoons as a kid and stuff. Like, I just remember Saturday mornings being like such a good feeling of just like, I don't have school today. I can sit around, eat some cereal, watch cartoons. And some days I'm like, I force myself to do that as an adult. I'll like, I'm like, I need a Saturday where I'm just being lazy, watching some cartoons, eating some cereal. One thing I just saw recently, I don't know if you've seen, but I was wondering if you were excited for the
X-Men 97.
Yep. Exactly. Just saw the previews.
Watched the trailer tonight.
Oh, it looks honestly, X-Men, I'm trying to think. It was X-Men and there were two like major and the Batman series were like the two that like defined my childhood of like, this is two of my favorite cartoons growing up. And I feel like Batman was like after school I'd get home and I'd watch Batman. And yeah, it was just
it was like Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, and then Batman would come on.
Which was
what was that Fox or was that Nickelodeon?
I think it was Fox because
no, WB.
Was it
WB's not Fox, is it?
No. I'm trying to think because I didn't grow up with cable. I didn't
Fox
have
was
cable.
Spider-Man, X-Men.
Yeah. I guess WB was on standard television when it wasn't on cable or whatever when it came out. Channel 23. I still remember the channel number. But
I remember a lot of channel numbers like MTV was 36 for a while, then it became 18. I don't know why I remember that.
It's just,
I think Nickelodeon was 27.
That sounds right. Yeah, no.
Speaking of that like 90s childhood, how old are you?
I am 80. I was born in 84. I am 39.
Okay, so you're just a year older than me.
Okay.
So we basically watched the same stuff, I'm guessing. But and like you, I didn't always have cable, but when I would just like zero in on the TV because I was like, who knows how long I'm gonna have this?
Right. Yeah, and I suppose we did have it for a little bit because I remember Cartoon Network was. I remember Johnny Bravo. That was just ridiculous, and yeah, there were certain cartoons. I guess I do remember.
I loved Snick. Was it Snick?
Snick. Was that the?
It was. It's like Saturday night.
Yes, Saturday Night Nickelodeon or whatever.
Had Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
my shit. So speaking of Are You Afraid of the Dark, I was watching this YouTube thing last night. This is when I messaged you. He's talking about the show. He's talking about the DOS game that was on the computer, and every now and then he's sparsing in these commercials from that era.
Okay.
And Smokey the Bear, he shows the Smokey the Bear thing, and he goes, "Only you can prevent." And what do you think he says?
A forest fire.
Right?
Right.
That's what I said. Because I was mimicking. I was like, only you can prevent forest. But in the commercial, he goes, wildfires.
So is this a newer commercial or an older commercial?
No, it's the older one.
Okay, that's an issue.
I guess he's always said wildfires.
No, he hasn't.
No, right?
I did see a Smokey the Bear thing pop up, but it was also what his actual name was, which was Smokey Bear, not Smokey the Bear.
No, it's not the, right.
I always heard Smokey the Bear. That's what I called him.
That's what I said, yeah.
But no, yeah, for sure. It was a forest fire. There's no doubt.
Because we didn't call them wildfires back then.
No. I'm living in Oregon now, and they have a fire season, which is interesting. I never heard of that before. Didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, like it's like the air quality is super low, and like I'll always send my parents pictures of what the air quality is at when it's like super bad. Like, I mean, the first year I was out here during fire season, like my eyes were like beet red because there's so much smoke in the air and everything. And like if you're not working indoors, and my job is a lot of it's outdoors, it really messed with me. Like breathing was harder, my eyes were all messed up. But yeah,
be streamlining that mesothelioma,
right? We get on that lawsuit. But they, fire. Forest fire. It was forest fire. It was definitely forest fire. That's all. This is what we're talking about. These are the things we're talking about today.
Segue.
Which, I mean, we can hop right into it. So the name Mandela Effect, it obviously comes, well, not obviously, but comes from Nelson Mandela. There was Fiona Broome, who is an author, researcher, and her focus is mainly on ghost, fairies, and alternate histories. So that's quite the grouping.
Is it ghost, fairies?
Ghost
fairies.
I believe it could be a little bit of both. I believe it's ghost, fairies, and alternate histories.
Real quick, you do mainly like cryptid stuff, right?
A lot of it's cryptid. I try and I've got an app. It's called what is it called? I'm gonna look it up. No, I wish.
Writes all your.
I thought about doing that, and I'm like, nope. It's gonna be obvious that this is not the normal way I do an episode. What is it called? I call it the Wheel of Destiny, but it's Daily Decision is what the app is called. So anytime I come across something, either on Instagram or Twitter, well, X now, anytime I come up like something like it seems like it's going to be an interesting topic, or YouTube, I guess too, like my suggestions on my YouTube are lean towards magic and the paranormal. That's about all I get for videos popping up for me. So if something comes up on there, go.
Mine's paranormal or like video games or like 90s shit.
I was gonna say it's all like a lot of it is the prof, any videos the prof puts out, and Command and Quarters is another one, like, which makes sense because these are the things I subscribe to and everything, so that's why it's pulling up on there. But yeah, so if something pops up, the Daily Decision one, you can just add it. You can make your own wheels. There's wheels on there that are pre-made, like, what should I have for dinner? And it gives like 10 different options. You just hit it and it chooses for you. So I just have a wheel that's all podcast topics. And a lot of them are cryptids. But I will just like, I spin the wheel, whatever comes up, that's what the next episode's going to be on.
The reason I asked is because have you ever come across ghosts of cryptids? You never hear anything about that.
Ghosts of cryptids. There was
like a ghost of Bigfoot or something.
There was one. It's on my wheel, but I can't remember exactly what it is. I'd have to look it up. I've got like 100 different topics on there right now.
There's ghost cryptids, but ghost of cryptids.
Ghost of the cryptid.
Yeah.
I guess probably not. I mean,
right?
I guess that doesn't.
It just made me think of that because you were like ghost fairies.
Ghost fairies.
I was like, so what if these cryptids or fantasy creatures die and And if you believe in ghosts, then you believe that cryptid would have a ghost too, right?
I don't see why not. I feel like all creatures have souls, right? All dogs go to heaven.
Yeah.
So, thank you, 90s
All
again.
Bigfoots go to hell.
All Bigfoot. I hope not. I hope it's just...
Yeah, I know.
I don't
right?
know. We'll see how it goes. Bigfoots don't seem like they're causing a lot of trouble. I mean, they're just,
No, not at all.
existing and floating around doing their thing, traveling through portals, whatnot. The usual.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right.
So yeah, reel us in.
Real back in. We're good. You're
I'll
good.
keep going
Off topic is usually how it goes when I have somebody else doing it with me, which is I enjoy. So we got Fiona Broom, who was at Dragon Con in 2005. It was a dragon convention, I guess. She was speaking with one of the guards, like I guess security guards or something there, about Nelson Mandela. And I think what happened was he popped up on TV or something. This is 2005. And
Right.
they were both under the impression that Nelson Mandela died in the 80s in prison, which apparently is a popular belief among countless numbers of people, not just the two of them. So she made the MandelaEffect.com website, and kind of right now, if you go to it, it goes to a YouTube page. But it, like, when it was first created, it was kind of a forum for people to like connect over, like, hey, I thought this person was dead, or I thought Nelson Mandela died in the 80s. Did you think that too? And there was this just giant mass of people who were all like, yeah, I remember seeing his funeral on television. I remember his wife giving a speech at the funeral. In my mind, I mean, like, I just said I was born 84, so, and they're thinking early 80s when the funeral happened. I knew he was in prison. I remember Nelson Mandela being in prison when I was younger, and I don't know why I thought he died in prison as well. He actually died in 2013, so, like, not even that long, 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, which...
See, the only thing... I love the whole Mandela Effect thing, but the only thing I don't know is the Mandela Effect. Like, I didn't know anything. I know who Nelson Mandela was, but I didn't know about he was in prison. Didn't know the conspiracy about him dying. I didn't know any of that.
Okay. Yeah, and it's just... It's not a conspiracy if it's true. That's what I was... No, it's just like, so there's a ton of people that remember it that way.
The thing that I find so weird is that other than Nelson Mandela, how come most Mandela effects are like pop culture stuff now? You don't hear any more history ones.
I think there is, well, kind of pop culture, kind of history. It's the first one I got on the list. I feel like it's more because these are things that are more noticeable. Like, people still, like, it's something, I don't know. Like, I'm terrible with history. Like, I'm terrible with dates, for one. Like, in history class, I could never remember dates when things were happening. I could remember things happening, like, I had most of the battles when I was in middle school. I had most of the battles memorized of the Civil War and everything, but I didn't know dates. There's dates on all of these things. And it's just...
I literally just memorized the Declaration year. I was like, that's something I should memorize. I feel like it's only been like the past 4 years that I dedicated to remember that.
Is that 1776?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Like I said, there's some dates I remember, but overall, no, I don't. Dates I'm not good with, and yeah, I don't know.
I honestly just don't like history at all. I mean, it's interesting, and
Right.
it's happened, but unless there's like some sort of mythological element to it, I really don't care. Like, I'm probably never gonna watch Oppenheimer because I just don't care.
It was good. It was all right.
I'm sure
I liked it.
is.
Yeah, I know. I get that. I think more. I just like Cillian Murphy than that actual. What's his Cillian Murphy?
I think it's Killian.
Cillian Murphy, the main actor. Yeah, I just actually like him as an actor a lot, and he did a really good job acting in the movie. But I cared more about that than the actual premise of the movie. But it was
You want to know? You want to know the only thing that got me excited for the movie?
was
Just a small cameo of Einstein.
yeah, that's
Because
okay.
I don't know, for some reason, like, I don't know if this happened to you or any other like younger kids even today, but you'll see somebody and automatically just be like, "Oh, that person's cool," and you just like think about that person every now and then.
Right.
Like when I won like a key to the. It was an art museum in my town. They would give once a year to like middle school kids. But I did a portrait of Einstein,
Uh-huh.
and ever since then he's been like, "Oh yeah, my Einstein is my guy." Even though like math is something like I hate.
Right.
The same thing as like I love Abraham Lincoln for some reason. It's just like, but like in my mind, he's like this like 7-foot buff dude who like fights vampires and shit.
Well, I mean, there was a documentary made about it, so. No, I get, I did, I think it was 7th or 8th grade, I did a report on Einstein. Like,
Oh yeah.
the actual, like, I have no idea how all the math works and everything with that, all the formulas he came up with, everything, and, like, just hearing, like, some of the thoughts on, like, there was recently, something just popped up since I started doing this. It was some kid, he's, like, 13 years old, and he's supposed to be, like, the smartest kid in the world right now. But he brought up, actually, about Mandela Effect within the last 2 months. In connection with CERN. His name's Max Laughlin. So
I
that
was
was
talking a little bit with you on that.
yeah. CERN is
Which
interesting.
is weird that you told me the Mandela Effect happened in what you said 2005.
2005.
But what's weird is I thought the Mandela Effect only became a topic in the past 3-4 years.
So 2000, I think CERN ran their thing in 2008. They ran the actual
Right.
and that's when a lot
The
of people
Hadron
are.
Collider.
But I also saw something about 76 something happening with the Hadron Collider.
Oh, really?
The God particle was discovered July 4th, 2012. The, what is it called? The Hans, I can't remember what it's called, but the superproton. So it says the superproton synchrotron became the workhorse of CERN's particle physics program when it switched on in 1976. The first beam of protons circulated the full 7 kilometers of the accelerator on May 3rd, 1976. So this isn't the one they have currently, the Large Hadron Collider,
Okay.
but that was the superproton synchrotron. So that's the SPS. So they've been doing things since the 70s.
They're the company that discovered the internet, right?
The
Created the internet?
I believe so. I believe the internet came, either it was created by them or it was like their work made the internet possible. But yeah, Switzerland. A bunch of...
So they smashed the Synchron Pinkron.
Synchron, everything went wrong. But it's
Door
saying...
opens up. Aliens come through.
It's basically Stranger Things. You have the internet, enjoy the knowledge, you'll go
Use the
crazy.
You will create Facebook.
Yes, the modern wonder of our civilization, Facebook. Let me see.
So you may have this knowledge, but do not create social media. We warned you.
It is like, yeah, that is, I think that is a big part of our downfall has been social media.
Especially younger people.
Yeah, it has such a huge effect on people. Like,
Because we
they're
can
doing
still
more
remember
studies.
the before times.
I remember.
There's gonna be people who never remember the before times, and it's just going to be social media their whole lives.
Oh yeah, because I was in college when Facebook came out. And it was at that time it was just if you were a college student you could get on Facebook.
Right.
Which at
And
that
just a
point I
white
didn't care about
background
it.
with blue letters.
I didn't even care about Facebook, and I was like, oh, whatever. And now whatever. I have Facebook for Marketplace. That's what I have Facebook for. I don't post on it. I don't read people's posts or anything. It's all just give me Marketplace. It's great.
I was one of the people who deleted mine during the pandemic.
I did, I deleted my account, and I was without it for like a year, and then I was like, I do kind of like Marketplace, so I redid it. Like, it's up there. I have like 1 or 2 posts, and that's about it. And that was like a year or 2 ago when I posted last on there. It's just because people were asking me like, how are you doing out there and everything? You're not sharing any of that. I was like, okay, I'll post something. And I was like, I don't want to get back into posting on here all the time. And Instagram's good enough for me. And I feel like Instagram is a lot less like negative. Like, I mean, I follow what I want to follow. I get to follow accounts that are like people that are creative and make things.
And their ads
and it's
are
like,
spot on.
Yeah, for sure. That's also true. So yeah,
Instagram's like the only ads I get that I don't get pissed off about because they know exactly what I'm looking for.
I might actually want that. I have clicked on ads before, and so their algorithm there is working. So, so let's break down a couple of the. Let's go through this list of Mandela effects that people are claiming are actual Mandela effects and not just, misrememberings. So I've got, the first one I was going to do was, you said pop culture. I guess it's more history than pop culture at this point because Ed McMahon, I guess you have to be a little bit older for this Mandela effect as well. Do you remember Ed McMahon, who he was, what he did?
He was like what was that called? The House Sweepstakes or something like that. He was like a lottery dude, right?
So that's what a lot of people remember. So Ed McMahon was originally Johnny Carson's late night show, The Tonight Show's co-host. But he went on to do American Family Publishers, not Publishers Clearinghouse.
Okay.
So Publishers Clearinghouse was the one that gave out the big checks to people.
Big checks, right.
Right. And everybody remembers Ed McMahon giving out these big checks. But Ed McMahon says he never did that. He worked for American Family Publishers, and it was only his picture was on the logo. He would do commercials or whatever. Was one of America's leading marketers of magazine subscriptions. That's what it was. So he was there for that, as far as he was like kind of the spokesman for that. But he never. Do you think you ever remember seeing him hand out checks?
Not really.
Okay. I feel like I remember seeing him hand out checks. This is the whole thing of like, this is why it gets worse every time I research this, because like every time I get a little more like confused and maybe swayed one way or the other. Like, yeah, that was a thing. No, that wasn't a thing. Also just like looking at pictures of things and like having my mind change, like, yeah, that does actually look more right, but it's not the way I initially thought, but it's, so that was one. I mean, like I said,
I thought he was a clearinghouse guy, but I don't remember him specifically doing
the checks. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. They were both popular at the same time. So it could have easily been confused for me. The biggest one that everybody is on is the family of bears that was children's literature in the early 90s. How do you remember? Do you remember that family and those books?
100%.
And how do you remember them being named? Or what was
it's not name? Just that I remember. It's that it is 100% Bernstein. Because that is how the teachers pronounced it when they read it to our classes. That's how we all said it to each other as kids to talk about.
Right.
We have never once said Bernstein.
So, yeah, that is... So in the reality that we're in currently, everything says that the authors' names were Berenstain. They say the books and the show was all the Berenstain Bears. But I am definitely on Team Berenstain Bears. And I think growing up I called them Bernstein Bears.
Bernstein, yeah.
So even with it's according to this, it's Berenstain or Berenstain. But yeah, I was always Bernstein Bears. But I've also had more of a lazy speech most of my life. I would cut words down and stuff, just make them shorter or whatever. But either way, it was always Steen. I remember that vividly. But that's one of the biggest, another one that was a big spark besides the Mandela, the death of Nelson Mandela. That's one that is very highly debated online. This next one, I'm willing to die on a hill for. The Fruit of the Loom company. Are you familiar with their products?
Mm-hmm.
How do you remember the image looking? What does their logo look like?
It's like a group of fruit.
Okay. Do you ever remember there being anything else with the group of fruit?
I know you're gonna mention the cornucopia.
I am going to mention the cornucopia.
But if you were to tell me it was always there, I would have believed it. But also, if you tell me it was never there, I would believe that too. Because I don't specifically remember it being there, but you could convince me otherwise.
I remember it growing up being there. It's definitely not there now. It hasn't been on their label. And they say it's never been on the label, ever. Fruit of the Loom says we've never had a cornucopia on there. I specifically remember growing up because I didn't know what a cornucopia was, and it was there. And then I remember around Thanksgiving, my parents would occasionally decorate for certain holidays, and my mom had a cornucopia and some of the little pumpkins and gourds, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember learning then that's what a cornucopia is, and that was what was in the background of the Fruit of the Loom logo.
On the tag of your underwear.
The tag, underwear, T-shirts. I feel like I remember more on the T-shirts, more so than... no, because the underwear used to have that, almost like a silk label. And I remember seeing, it was on there in color. That's the thing. It is so vivid in my mind. I remember that growing up. And I'm looking around for other brands that might have had that on it that I thought... Maybe that's where the confusion is, but can't really find anything else that had a cornucopia on their logo at that time in the early 90s, late 80s, at a time when I remember the logo. So that one, that is seriously one that really bothers me because it just was so it was unique because I didn't know what a cornucopia was, but I remember seeing it on the logo. And then... But to me, it also doesn't make a lot of sense because when I think of a cornucopia now, I think more of gourds and the tiny pumpkins and stuff, more of a fall thing. But at the same time, I do remember seeing that on the logo. So there's that.
So this is where it starts getting to mainly branding and pop culture.
Right. And it is a lot.
Completely abandoned history.
Yeah, I don't... Let me see... And it is mainly, I don't have many other, I can't think of any other examples that are history-wise.
It's so weird.
It's just, kind of like you said, that neither one of us really, history is not something we like, something we are super deep into, so we don't remember it as much, but branding is something everyone sees. Even if you're not buying the product and you're in the store, you're seeing this branding show up.
Right.
And it's just, I think, to me, that's what makes me feel like it's more legit that people have seen these things or haven't seen these things. Just because it is so in your face with, America, advertising is its own industry. This is how you sell items. You advertise it. You make the labels and everything look like something that should sell. But
yeah. So we briefly mentioned CERN, but we didn't really talk about CERN's connection to the Mandela Effect.
The CERN.
I feel we were about to, but then we went on a side tangent.
I want to go through a couple more of these.
Okay.
Just a couple more. I know another big one. This one I don't remember. But a lot of people... So you remember the movie with Shaq where he plays a genie?
Mm-hmm.
And then he had, which was called Kazam. And I do remember that because he also released a line of shoes called, I believe the name was Kazam. And they were like just these high top basketball shoes. I thought they were the coolest thing ever. Never got a pair. But yeah, so the Shaq came out with Kazam. A lot of people talk about a movie with Sinbad. Are you familiar with Sinbad?
Mm-hmm.
Called
comedian.
They are saying he came out with a genie movie called Shazam, like a couple years before Shaq's Kazam came out.
Mm-hmm.
There's there's like no physical records of it. People say they tell these stories how they vividly remember going to the theater to see the movie. And like one of them was like, yeah, I went to go see that. It was the first movie I ever saw by myself. My two brothers were a little bit younger, wanted to go see something else. So my mom took them to that and I went and saw Shazam. But yeah, people are, that one I don't remember. I do not.
Neither do I.
They say there's a lot of confusion. It might have been the first kid or whatever, where he's like popping out of the mailbox on the cover and it kind of looks like a genie coming out of a, but they also said he did there was a late night series they were doing where he was dressed up like a genie, but it wasn't a movie. Mm-hmm. But he was like hosting this film festival online on some channel, I don't know, with like I think the old Sinbad movies or something. But either way,
isn't Aladdin like kind of based off the real life Sinbad, who was like a
Sinbad the Sailor?
Yeah, something like that.
Which are some of my... I remember those because my grandma... When I go to my grandma and grandpa's house, they had the old Sinbad claymation movies. Did you ever see those?
No.
They're so great if you can find them. It's mainly live action, but like all the creatures in it are claymation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm remembering one of them.
There's one where he's like fighting the skeletons with the swords coming down the stairs. I remember that scene, and I remember the Cyclops. Those are the two I remember. And I think he like throws a rock or something the eye of the...
So did he ever meet a genie at the time?
I think there is a genie. No, I do think... Because I think Sinbad was based off the 40... What is it? 40 Nights or whatever, the Alibaba and his 40, like that whole storyline. Because I was doing one of the old episodes, I was just looking up, had about a rock in it, which is this giant bird that's also in those stories. But I do think there is I do believe there's a genie involved with that, but not positive. We'll do two more. Monopoly Man.
Right.
How would you describe him? If you had to give a physical description, how you remember him?
Like a tuxedo, a top hat, and a mustache.
And a mustache.
Oh, and a cane.
I'm not gonna fight this one either way. But the monocle is what a lot of people bring up and say they remember the Monopoly Man having a monocle. Mm-hmm. I don't remember particularly either way, but that is another one that's been big as far as people having a lot of conflict over whether or not he did. And
did he have a cane?
I've got a Monopoly set. He does have a cane. This is he's got a cane, top hat. No monocle though. Big mustache, big white mustache. But yeah, I feel
like it was like Ace Ventura.
Yep.
That kind of made people think that. Because that guy has the monocle and he punches him out, and
yeah, and I could see where that and that's the thing. Like a lot of these come up where people are like, you're making connections from other things you've seen that make you think that. The similar one was the Sally Field, where a lot of people, when she was getting, I can't remember, one of the awards, and a lot of people remember saying, "You like me, you really like me."
Yeah.
Which is also, according to current videos, what she actually says is, "I can't deny the fact that you like me right now. You like me." which
Sounds terrible.
does not sound right. And also, and there's also the scene in The Mask where Jim Carrey's like, he says, you really like me. So it's where he's reenacting that. And it's just like, we have these connections and maybe it's not right, but that also just does not sound right at all. Like, it does not. But a fun fact is that Sally Field's brother works at CERN.
Oh, really?
It's weird. I don't know why, but that's a weird connection that was brought up somewhere. The last one I'm going to do, and this is, did you grow up eating frozen pizzas? Do you remember the really cheap brand that used to come, small circle ones?
Yeah.
And what was the name of that brand?
What was it called? Tostinos?
Right. But it's really called Totino's.
So no S.
No S. But I will also stand on that hill that it used to be Tostinos.
Right.
And nobody...
I think I still call it that, even though...
Even if it...
even if I read it...
I'll still say it as Tostinos, yeah. It's like they were the cheap... You could... I think we didn't grow up with a wealthy family or anything, and that was an easy, cheap dinner. Like, what were they, like $2 or $3?
At the time.
Yeah, it was so good at the time. Even when I would... Even at an older age, which this is probably disgusting, I shouldn't bring this up, but when I would come home from a night of drinking, I would put one in the microwave for 5 minutes and roll it up and eat it like a burrito.
Right, like I was going to say a taco. But
yeah. That was a different time in my life. No, but I mean, like, it was cheap. It was so good. It was easy. But yeah, I've been eating them. I had been eating them most of my life, and I was always calling them Tostinos.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've gone through some decent examples of what the Mandela Effect is, and where a large group of people have an opinion on it was always this way, and a large group says, no, it's been this way. Which there are some different explanations. I guess we can start with the most fun one, the one I think would be the coolest one if it were how it actually worked out, which is CERN. So I had to look up. I wasn't sure what the name actually meant. The name CERN is derived from the acronym for the French. I'm gonna butcher this because I don't speak French, but Conseil Européen pour la Recherche Nucléaire, or the European Council for Nuclear Research. It's a provisional body founded in 1952 with the mandate of establishing a world-class fundamental physics research organization in Europe. So they've been around since the 50s, 1952, it's a long time. Which I did not realize, I always thought they were like within the last 10, 15 years, like they showed up, because they're so advanced and like the work they're doing is crazy. But as we were talking about earlier, they're in possession of a large Hadron Collider. It has
Hadron Collider.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. I've been watching videos on CERN all day and I still am pronouncing it wrong. It has protons traveling through it. It is a 17-mile, basically a giant circular tube. These protons are traveling close to the speed of light. And when they collide, they replicate conditions similar to those shortly after the Big Bang. The CERN discovered a new proton, the Higgs boson, or the God particle. A large concern around it is the possibility of creating black holes. So that's cool. That's not a major concern at all. It's just this giant black hole that will consume everything. The LHC may have unknowingly, this is some people's thoughts on this, is that the LHC may have unknowingly disrupted the fabric of our universe. A rupture that could potentially thrust humanity into an alternate universe similar to our own. This goes with the theory of just like unlimited number of universes, and just these I know they've talked about how CERN is trying to create basically gateways to other dimensions if they can, which is always exciting because, yeah, I mean, I've seen Stargate. I know how this works out. I've seen Stargate. What's the Stranger Things? Like, yeah. I think that is kind of what I think that's kind of based off CERN and stuff. But yeah, it just seems like there's this, and it's, how many, what did I say? In 2019, it had 2,660 scientific, technical, and administrative staff members and hosted about 12,400 users from institutions in more than 70 countries. Like, so this is this giant organization of just really smart people who understand how all this works and understand how the Einstein formulas work, and they are, which, I mean, it's the work that's coming out of it is just stuff that does not make sense to me, and I hear it just, yeah, it's just crazy what they're doing and the stuff they have the ability to do. So that is one of the options that people are throwing out, is the possibility that there was, which I was talking about earlier. So Max Laughlin, who's this 13-year-old genius, basically, just recently came up with a prototype for free energy. At 13, actually, he was younger than, I think he's 13 now. He was younger when he came up with that, the prototype.
He's an alien.
He ain't human. No. So yeah, no, it's just. He listed, and this, like I said, it's weird because this video, like, he just came out with a video recently within the last 2 months, about CERN. He's got worries that CERN may be aware of disturbance in the space-time continuum and believes that Mandela Effect memories may be part of the original universe. His thought is that the black hole was open and we were switched into a different universe in a quick. They were talking about not Max, but like other videos I was watching was talking about the possibility of like us being constantly switched between universes, like not even recognizing it's happening. And that's where the false memories, or Mandela Effect comes into play, is where we're switching, where these minor, like, it's basically the exact same universe we're in currently with the tiniest differences, because like, say, in one universe you're walking on the right side of the street, the other universe you're walking on the left side of the street. It's right. Like things you wouldn't even notice that are different because it feels like you're just doing something normal. But like, that's kind of what they were talking about with the infinite universe possibility, is that there's all these infinite universes with all these different infinite scenarios playing out. Which, I mean, like, honestly, all I can think of is all the Marvel movies lately or TV shows with, where you've got the alternate timelines, or you've got these alternate universes where things are the Spider-Mans, where all the different Spider-Man universes are colliding and everything. It just, like, I feel like they've definitely, which, I mean, that's always been a comic book thing, is the different universes, different, even within the same, like, comic book series and comic book distributor, company, I don't know what you call it. But yeah, it's just like, but it seems like it's more, the more research that's coming out, it's more of a possibility that could actually be reality. And it's just, I don't know if it's scary, because like, if it's happening, I'm not realizing it's happening, then it's not really scary because I just keep living my life like I always have. That was the CERN thought. Like, that's where they're worrying about black holes opening up and sucking us into different universes. So that's an option.
You hear like the weird stuff about them, like they have a statue of Vishnu or whatever, like the goddess of death, in front of their building.
I feel like I've heard that, but I haven't seen it.
And then, like, right before they collided the Hydron, they did like the dance of death.
I've heard that as
and
well.
people were, like, filming it.
I remember now that
should look
you're.
it up.
I was gonna say now that you're mentioning it, I remember hearing things like this. Completely, like that's the thing. Like I had heard about CERN. I knew it existed. I knew it was. They were doing a lot of super advanced scientific research and stuff, but I did not like go any deeper than that. Like this is the most I've looked into CERN, and the more I look into it, yeah, the more it seems like things are going little. I don't know. Yeah, no, but I definitely will look into that. So I told you, like the more I do the research on this, the more I just get more like, it's not scared. It's just like, I don't know. Uneasy. There you go. That is a great word for what I'm feeling. Uneasy. But on a little more, maybe a little less scientific, well, it's still scientific, but other ways that this could be happening. The power of suggestion is something that comes up. These things pop up.
Like that's your problem.
Yeah, I sometimes I feel like the internet was given to us just to mess with us, just to be like,
Yeah.
Here's all the information out there, and you sort through it and see what you can figure out. It's like I don't need all this information.
There's a theory that information no longer exists. That the internet was wiped clean of like more than 90% of what used to be on there.
I would believe that.
It's called the dead internet theory.
Dead internet theory. All that.
If you Google anything, you only get 5-6 pages in before it says there's no more results.
Which I have noticed that with the search I did recently, there was like 1 page of results.
Right.
It's like, it seems kind of low for whatever the topic I was looking up at the time. Okay, that's a new one.
So basically, like somebody got rid of all our useful information and kept all the
Yeah,
that.
you can say it. Yeah, it's and that's the thing. Like, I utilize the internet for a decent amount for work and stuff, but I'm also only looking up a very specific group of things. Like, and when I'm doing like my own outside of researching for episodes, most of my internet usage is, again, very similar. Paying bills, going to websites to shop or whatever. It doesn't usually drift too far out of my normal everyday stuff,
Yeah.
So I guess I would be unaware of all the stuff that was missing, well, that's not true, because I tried to load MySpace the other day. It would not load on my phone. Like, I haven't tried it on a computer yet, but it would not load on my phone. It would load it was super slow loading. And I saw at the top, there was like articles. So I don't even know what MySpace looks like anymore. There was something, I saw a meme or something popped up. I was like, I wonder if my MySpace account's still up, which I'm sure it's not. It's been, I had MySpace before Facebook, so it's been like 20 some years. Yeah, but the MySpace would not load on my phone. But yeah, so I guess like occasionally I do drift for my normal searches and stuff. So, and it does seem like getting rid of the MySpace. So yeah, the power of suggestion. So it kind of comes up where it's like, I guess you would say leading the witness, basically, asking someone if they're like. So the reason I was asking the questions the way I was because on one of the episodes I was listening to, it was like the power of suggestion is something that a lot of people use where they just present this information to you like, do you remember this like it was, which is no longer like it was, as opposed to how do you remember it?
Right.
So like when I asked for the Monopoly Man, I was like, how would you describe the Monopoly Man as opposed to, do you remember him having a monocle? One thing I came across in one of the episodes was talking about how with the power of suggestion, sometimes child services had complaints of questioning kids, and it brought up like they had been molested by the way they were asking the questions.
Right.
And it caused like so many issues, and they've since changed the way the questions are asked. But it was like with the power of just suggestion by the way they're asking it, like people were getting in trouble because, and I mean with kids, like they're so easily swayed and stuff. Like if you tell them something is this way, that's probably what they're going to lean towards. They believing that you're saying this as an adult, this is what it is, or that would be one of the ways that they say is power of suggestion could be one of the issues where the Mandela effect comes into play, or false memories. A schema is another thing. Schema, schema. In psychology and cognitive science, a schema, plural schemata or schemas, describes a pattern of thought or behavior that organizes categories or information and the relationships among them. It can also be described as a mental structure or preconceived ideas, a framework representing some aspect of the world or a system of organizing and perceiving new information. Schemata influence attention and the absorption of new knowledge. People are more likely to notice things that fit into their schema while reinterpreting contradictions to the schema as exceptions or distorting them to fit. Schemata have a tendency to remain unchanged even in the face of contradictory information. Schemata can help in understanding the world and the rapidly changing environment. People can organize new perceptions into schemata quickly, as most situations do require complex thought when using schema, since automatic thought is all that is required. So yeah, that's another thing. Just
it's a lot of words for just saying,
it was
whatever you remember is not going to be changed by what people tell you.
Right. And it's how you perceive things as they fit into your own scheme. Connection with reality. Right. Like, you remember something this way because these other things connect and they are similar to this, and that's how you remember that. So, I mean, like, that's a mental view of how it could be organized and put together, the wrong perceptions. Or it could just be called Tostinos, and everybody's called Totinos now. We already talked about the parallel universe hypothesis, which is basically what they're saying with CERN is the people wormholing between universes.
If you look at the Hadron Collider, it kind of looks like a big portal.
Yeah,
it's a big circle.
It is, and that's I definitely get some Stargate vibes from it.
Right.
Like, it just seems like something where you're going to be walking into, you have the possibility to walk into an alternate reality. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. I always assume the worst things are going to happen when stuff like this is taking place. Like things from an alternate reality or different universe that we don't want coming in here are going to be coming in.
I think it's funny when they were talking about, going back to CERN, when they were talking about colliding the Hadron thingy, whatever. I remember thinking like, oh, what could happen? You know, what's the craziest thing? And what's funny to think about is like the next day it's like, ooh, Skechers is spelled with us.
Everything's changed. My world has changed.
No. Damn you, CERN.
When they talk about how like it's such a quick change that you don't even notice it's happening, that I don't know. That I think that's where some of the more unease comes for me. Like, and it does bother me, like that these things are coming up, and I'm like, no, I know this is how I saw it in my childhood. Like, I know 20, 30 years ago, this is the reality I was in, and this is what I saw. And now you tell me that never happened. Like, That's what makes me uneasy. And like, talking about like some people are saying CERN could, some of the videos and stuff I watched and read was saying how like CERN knows what they're doing and they're able to manipulate history, like being able to figure out how to actually change things. And like you said, it's such small things, like, yeah, that doesn't bother me. But the thought that it could possibly be something larger later on, covering up things possibly that shouldn't be covered up, is more what my concerns are around, like not being able to learn from history because history has been rewritten. Just, yeah, I don't know. It just seems like, again,
there's that theory that the moment time travel is discovered, that very moment, that means time travel's always been around or whatever.
Right.
I'm probably saying that wrong.
I think I get what you're saying.
It's like the moment we discover it, that's the moment it had already existed.
Right.
Because of the paradox of time travel, right? So
right.
There was I'm going to get the school wrong, but for sake of not remembering, I'm going to say Columbiana, or what's it called? Columbia
University? Yeah.
Yeah, one of those big name schools. Well, somebody transferred a particle like 0.00 milliseconds to the past or something like that. And I feel like at that moment, when they discovered that, then like time travel is happening, you know?
Right. Like 20 years down the road, but it's, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like time travel has been invented. It is, if we can transfer energy to a different time, then that would be like the beginning of time travel, which is now time travel's always here because everybody from that moment on when that happened, it is, yeah, nope, I gotcha. It's just, yeah, time travel is another one that just kind of like the thought of it and the effects of it, and just, it's a lot to take in. And I can't remember, I was watching some show I was watching, like an actual, like a television show or something, where they were talking about like, yeah, that's not how time travel works. And it was just like seeing how like it was supposed to be like a more realistic, like they were talking about how like if you see yourself in the past or whatever, it messes up. And it's like, no, that's not how time travel works. But just the different, like so many things could come out of time travel, which again, I don't like to, I feel like I sound crazy when I'm like, yeah, somebody from the future could come to the past, change one minor thing, and then it changes forever, and we don't know because it's been changed. But
it's like some asshole that keeps losing bets because he's an idiot. It's like, it was mirror on the wall. No, it wasn't, you idiot. It was a magic mirror on the wall.
You want to bet on that?
And they want to bet on it. Time travels.
Time, right? It's just so, the time itself is just so, that's another one I don't like to think about too much because it's just that deep rabbit hole you go down where like all these possibilities of like how the future works, how the past works, how the present works. You're like, oh, we only have the present moment. Well, you only have the present moment if time travel is an event of the future at a later date and they're coming back from the future. It's just... it's too much. But I'm excited for time. I would love time travel. I think that would be fun to go visit other times, see how the world was. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm not, yeah, there's definitely some times I'd be avoiding, but I'm sure there was other periods of time that would be very cool to see.
This one guy, I forget what his name was. He has an interesting name, but he had a cool theory that said like, when you go back in time, like you go to different parts of the world. You don't go back in time and you're sitting in the same spot in a different time because the world is rotating.
Makes sense.
So the world was on a different rotation 70 years ago than it was today or something like that.
Right.
So you go back 70 years and you pop up in France or something like that.
Which that seems like it's a constantly moving. So that seems like it makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think the last one I've got is confabulation, which is to talk informally or to hold a discussion, or the third one is to fill in gaps in memory by fabrication. It's a major characteristic of brain damaged patients is the tendency to confabulate, to hide and disassemble, about their damage.
Everyone who thinks it's Bernstein is brain damaged.
We've all got brain damage. Well, I mean, from the can suck through the wormhole, that's gonna have some effect, right? That's confabulation is something that. Which again, it's characters of brain damage patients, but it's also something people just, you fill in the gaps because it's like trying to finish someone's sentence or something. It's like you assume this is how it's going to be. One fun theory that this is all my own, another, I didn't come up with this from anything else, is So you know how you have those dreams and you're like falling and you wake up and you're like, you shake yourself awake?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we're jumping universes every time that happens, which doesn't happen often for me. But when it does, my world does not seem right the next day. Most days it doesn't seem right, but no. That was all the information I had on it. But yeah, let's plug you. What's where can we find you?
Bending over.
No. As soon as I said it, I felt bad. Where can we find you? What can we? Where?
Basically, just Instagram.
Okay.
I really don't do anything else. So
I mean,
hell, I barely even post on Instagram anymore.
Right.
I'm trying to, but Zero-Goblin.
Okay.
I don't know if you can find me just putting Zero-Goblin, but you could also put a dash between Zero and Goblin.
I think I found you with Zero-Goblin, just searching that way. But yeah.
Okay.
But I also follow you, so that's probably why it popped up quicker. But either way, Zero-Goblin on Instagram.
I do a podcast every now and then with some people.
Okay.
Murder Cake. If anyone
Murder
wants to listen
Cake.
to that.
What's that all about?
Man, what is it about? I don't know.
I don't know. Is it kind of just getting together and chatting with friends, or is there some topic
Pretty
to
much.
it? Okay. I mean, that's similar to what we were doing on. We may have a topic, but the episodes were more about just hanging out with friends and talking about things we like, and usually going off on tangents. All right, Murder Cake. I will look it up as well. lanktr.ee. I believe it's /DOTU or DOTU podcast. One of the two, but you'll find it. All of the socials are on there. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on today. It was a blast. I'm glad we actually got this down and done, and years of planning. So no, that's awesome. Yeah.
Hope I wasn't boring.
No, you're good. Like I said, I really did actually enjoy even just the chatting with you, going off on tangents. Cool. I love having an extra person there to go off on the tangents with. So,
for sure.
All right, but we will go.
If you want to have me on again, we could maybe do the dead internet theory thing.
Dead internet theory.
So I'm very interested in that, or even matrix glitches.
Okay, I'm listening.
That was one of the first things we talked about. Me going on talking about is glitches in the matrix.
Right. Like the cat show. I remember the cat showing up twice.
It was basically like people seeing like animals walking through fences or airplanes being stuck in the sky and shit like that.
Okay. Which I've heard.
I'll send you a link.
I've heard like when people see ghosts and stuff, it's somebody walking through a former outline that was there in a past reality, and their energy is being transferred over through a glitch in the matrix, if you will, showing up, walking through the walls and stuff. That I've heard. Yeah, I'm always down for anything out there. Anything out of the norm that's fun to talk about. I enjoy it. But yeah, it was good. We'll go ahead and wrap it up here. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Zero-Goblin, for joining us today. And we will all see you. I'll see you the next time I see you.